Okay. So, Ganeshan, there's a question for you before we start. So, do we have also any prizes for non-Asaka members in the event?
Yeah, sure. So we have some exciting competition. So please feel free to join. Or even for non-ISACA members, the event is free, the conference is free, and you have exciting prizes. Yeah.
Thanks for sharing that.
Thank you. Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah. So, hi everyone. Ganeshan has already given a brief introduction about myself. Just to add on to that, I'm also working in the space of SCADA security, ICS security, and also a certified IEC 62443 certified professional as well. Sorry. And apart from that, I also have a lot of experience in the product security space, be it from different manufacturers or different sectors. That is with respect to healthcare manufacturers or automation, automotive, or other sector devices, be it from the manufacturing unit of other divisions also. So that has been my experience so far. Now we'll go ahead and we'll start off this conversation on the IoT security. We are basically calling it out as an introduction session. I was speaking with some of the ISACA Bangalore chapter members, so we wanted to have this session as an introductory session, so that we can go ahead and dig deeper in, maybe going forward in the subsequent sessions or the next sessions that we have. So for this session, I would like to keep it on a very high level, that what IoT security is, or what are the different aspects of IoT security that we'll be talking about. We'll also talk about what are what are the different attack trends, what are the different breaches that we are hearing nowadays in the space of IoT security, in the space of connected technologies basically. We'll also talk about different challenges and attack surface which are available within the IoT security ecosystem or IoT security space itself. Apart from that, we'll also look at some of the global regulations and standards that are, specifically talking about IoT security, or maybe, sorry, and maybe specifically talking about, IoT connected devices, basically in their security standards, or maybe as part of their framework. So we'll be looking at just some of the, high-level global standards and regulations also, which a company, an organization, or enterprise might would like to go ahead and follow. We'll also talk about some of the leading practices or some of the key points that we should look at when we are dealing with any of the connected devices or any of the connected technology product. So we'll start off with the first of all, the overview of IoT, that what IoT is. Okay, so if talk about any device for that matter nowadays, you're talking about any of the connected camera, you're talking about any smart fan, smart bulb, smart home, basically anything that you talk about. We have a lot of hype about all these kind of products. Okay, there are different sectors which I have mentioned here, be it the telematics, usage-based insurance, retail vending. We have smart grids, healthcare, medical devices, smart cities, smart homes. We have smart enterprises also. Okay. There are a lot of connected technology products and devices which have come into the market. When I'm saying connected technology, connected vehicle, or any type of IoT device, what do I actually mean is any product which has this Internet of Things word in it, that is connected with internet, be it your smart fan, be it your smart bulb, be it your smart home. Everything has an internet connection which is actually being shared with your ISP provider, and then you're getting some of the features or some of the whatever facilities that they are providing. For example, uh, if we talk about any smart fan, okay, what does the smart fan actually look like? How does the smart fan actually look like, and what does it do? So basically, if you have a smart fan, you will have a remote, or you'll have a mobile application, okay, using which you can go ahead and operate your fan, instead of having a a normal switchboard wherein you have the turn on and turn off button to switch it on and switch it off. So this is how the Internet of Things work, that you can use your mobile phone application of that fan. That could be of any company, and they have just provided you the an application to turn on the fan or turn off the fan, speed, increase the speed of the fan, decrease the speed of the fan. You can also monitor that for how many number of hours the fan has been running. In 24 hours, how many times it has actually gone for a power cut, or many features they might come up with. So all these things are being actually catered with the help of Internet of Things technology. So that Internet of Things technology we are talking about in different sectors here. If I talk specifically about this slide, we have different sectors which we have outlined here. You see smart grids, right? So we have examples also given here. There are different kind of devices. This session is too short if we talk about, going in detail about different kind of devices, different kind of examples. But I'll just go ahead on a high level and tell you what am I trying to, talk about. So if you talk about smart grids, in that sector, smart meters are one of the, very common devices which are there in the place. Many places in our country also we are dealing with smart meters. We are also using smart meters. Okay, we are also using smart grid networks at some of the places, I would say, not really many of the places in our country, but there are multiple countries wherein we already have smart grids and smart meters on a wide variety of range, wherein we are also doing the security thing, we are also doing the functional thing, we are also doing the quality check. So there are multiple things that we are doing on those parameters. However, within our country right now, I would say this is on a very limited in a very limited space. Apart from the smart grid or from the smart meters perspective, we also have healthcare manufacturer and medical device equipment manufacturers, which is a very humongous industry. It's a very it's spread across geographies, and within India also we have many players. And given the rise of OT security also, or the industrial control security also, the IoT devices basically are being utilized in multiple manufacturing facilities, multiple industrial security or critical infrastructure units also, wherein we have different kind of healthcare devices or medical devices which has to comply with different kind of regulations also and standards also. We'll go on and we'll talk about that as well. Apart from that, we just wanted to touch upon the smart cities and smart home also, what we are calling in right now in many places. Okay, so smart city or smart home basically will have all of your things over the internet. Okay, so if I talk about a smart home will have a smart doorbell, it will have a smart lock, it'll have a smart fan, it'll have a smart television, it'll have a smart it'll have a smart chimney, it'll have a smart shoe. There are multiples of devices which you can call it as smart. Now we already talked about why we are calling it smart and why we are calling it IoT enabled, because it is connected to the internet. So there are lots and lots of things to talk about. So apart from the smart homes, smart cities, we also have retail and vending places wherein the IoT devices are at at a large scale of use. Or I would say the retail vendors are nowadays using it on a very large scale. Okay. Apart from that, we also have vehicles. I mean, the automotive sector, which is coming up pretty much now in the IoT space, be it the connected car technology, the fleet management system, the enterprise level, fleet management systems, and there are many more which we can talk about. Also, from a research perspective, I was going through one of the research, and that talks about 65% of increase in the adoption of IoT security products by 2022, which is a very good growth rate, and it shows that the adoption rate of the IoT technology or the IoT devices is going on a very large scale in comparison to what we had in the initial years. So we'll after we already had the have the understanding now of the IoT devices, or what IoT basically stands for, how it looks like. So we'll go ahead and we'll talk about the IoT security gambit, that why we are basically talking about any kind of security in any of the IoT devices. So if you talk about any IoT product, okay, or IoT device, I would say it's a complete product which has different kind of layers in it. Okay, when I say different kind of layers, you see on the right side of the right side of the slide, I have the ITU IoT reference model, which talks about different layers that any IoT device or any particular, IoT product might have. Okay, so the layers, different layers that it has is the device layer, the network layer, application and service layer. Okay, so the different terminologies we are using in the security space of IoT basically are different types of protocol also, different types of interfaces also, and different types of, modules or component that the IoT product has. Recently, last year, when it was the Donald Trump was the president of the United States, he actually declared one of the Cybersecurity Improvement Act for specifically for IoT, because the rise of IoT products or IoT devices are pretty much, or they are, going on a very large scale in comparison to the earlier years that we are talking about. Okay, now what is the security gambit basically which we are talking about in the space of IoT? Okay, there are multiple factors basically. Okay, one very important factor is the protocols. Okay, that what all protocols do we have when we are talking about IoT devices? Okay, so that will go ahead and we'll talk about different types of protocols. But before we go ahead and deal with different types of protocols, we need to understand that security is having a paramount importance when we are talking about any connected devices. Okay, so anything which you have in your home, which is smart, which has your personal data, okay, or which has some kind of sensitive information in it, and it is connected to the internet, definitely it goes ahead and conflicts with the security of that device. Okay, so you have to take care of the security. You have to basically go ahead and understand that what is it that I can secure with respect to my device, so that my data, my information does not get breached. Okay, so those are some of the things that we need to look at, maybe from the personal data perspective, from the sensitive data perspective, or also from the perspective of breach, that I don't get, maybe I should not suffer economically, I should not suffer mentally. There are different kind of consequences that might happen with respect to a breach. If I talk about a very simple kind of a breach which happened long back, but it was with respect to one of the connected bulbs. Okay, so that bulb actually had a lot of different types of musics playing in it. If you have an application, basically a mobile application, you can change the music of the bulb. You can also change the color of the bulb, and then you can go ahead and basically apply any type of theme that you want for that bulb. So in the United States, this particular incident I'm talking about happened somewhere close to 3-4 years back, that somebody actually hacked into the bulb. So the bulb is basically using the BLE technology, BLE protocol, okay, Bluetooth Low Energy protocol. So that had an inherent weakness which was exploited, and then the adversary actually had complete control over the bulb, and bulb was actually placed in the baby's room. So that baby got scared, and he got admitted to ICU. I mean, that news was shared just to understand that how important it is to think about the security of even a low-cost device, okay, or some device which is actually placed in a very confined space, or you would not really have too much worry about that. But we need to think about all those kind of devices also. So that is what security is all about, or that is why we should look at the security of any type of IoT devices or products. So, we were talking about that, what are the different common protocols that we have in the IoT security space. So the protocols that you see here over the slide, there are very limited number of protocols that I have tried to list down. However, apart from this, there are again different kind of protocols, maybe from the IoT security perspective also, from the IoT perspective also, there are different protocols available from the OT or ICS background also, which is very important. Okay, if I talk about some of the common protocols within the IoT devices, I would say starting from Modbus, then we have LoRaWAN, we have MQTT, we have DNP3, Zigbee, BLE. BLE is one of the most used protocols I have experienced in the IoT devices. Zigbee is another one, And then Modbus, it becomes one of the protocols which are widely used in the enterprise level devices, or which are manufacturing level devices. There you have Modbus heavily used for any of the any of the low power devices. We have long range wide area network also being covered very widely. MQTT is one of the protocols wherein we have a subscriber publisher model, which is a very lightweight protocol. And there are many devices which are now relying on MQTT. Though, these protocols that we are talking about, they all have some or the other inherent weaknesses or inherent vulnerabilities in them. However, there are different set of considerations which we need to have when we are actually configuring it, or when we are actually integrating it with the product that we are trying to sell in the market. Okay, nowadays, if you see, there are a lot of considerations with respect to a product. Okay, when I say a lot of considerations with respect to a product, the different types of different types of attacks which are happening nowadays, the supply chain attacks, also the open source related attacks. We also have a different kind of protocol level attacks. Those are some of the things that we need to think of when we are actually integrating anything with our product. So right now we are talking about the protocol. So I'll go one by one with the protocols. If I talk about Modbus, it is again a serial communication protocol which is mentioned here. However, there is a serial as well as TCP/IP communication protocol, okay, which is commonly available for any of the industrial electronic devices, which are maybe if I talk about one of the examples, there's a device called as chiller controller device, okay, which is for an enterprise. There you have Modbus used at a very large scale. Okay. Similarly, long range wide area network protocol. It is again available for many of the low power devices. The low power devices, sometimes it can be a thermostat also. Okay, and sometimes it might be a smart bulb also, wherein you have this protocol implemented. The MQTT protocol basically, as we spoke about, it is working on the model of publisher subscriber, and it is a very lightweight protocol which is available for many of the devices or many of the products that are being used in the market. Okay, the DNP3 protocol basically is a protocol which is again used in the process automation sector. And any enterprise level devices or any enterprise level communication with the IoT device is happening over DNP3. Okay, Zigbee is the kind of a communication protocol, which is again it was basically used to create the personal area network for small or low power digital radios. However, number of devices which are home devices, okay, maybe a smart doorbell, or I would say smart plug. These are some of the devices, very low power devices, which are utilizing or leveraging Zigbee protocol on a wide variety of range. Okay. Similar to Zigbee, we also talked about BLE, right? The Bluetooth Low Energy. That is also one of the widely used protocols available in the market for a number of devices, maybe Fitbit, or smartwatches, or you have smart cameras. You have maybe NVR, DVRs. Sorry, all these kind of devices which are utilizing the BLE protocol as well. So these are some of the common protocols. I wanted to give you the basic background of how IoT looks like. What is the what is the perspective from the IoT security dimension, and also what are the different protocols we are utilizing in the IoT ecosystem basically. Okay. Now, before we go ahead, I wanted to basically talk about some of the recent attacks or some of the recent breaches that happened with the with respect to IoT. So this is just to give you a sense of that, yes, why we are talking about IoT security. Is that actually very important, or do we really need to talk about it? Yes, we do need to talk about it, because if you see on the screen, these are just negligible number of breaches which I have been able to post, or which I have been able to squeeze in. However, there are millions and millions of attacks which are happening every single day on any of the IoT devices. Okay, for instance, I would say that a very I would say it's a very simple way of understanding whether you have a connected technology product or an IoT device at home. And if it is not configured well, if it is not securely implemented within your network, within your environment, there's a very simple hack to it. There's a website called as Shodan. Okay, Shodan.io. You can go ahead and you can try to check whether what are the live cameras, what are the live different IoT products and devices which are listed there, which are not really, which might be secure, however, which are listed over the internet. You can find them on Shodan.io. Okay, so again, this is just from the educational purposes and not from the perspective of going ahead and doing some malicious or illegal activities. So please try to refrain from any of those activities. So if you see here, there are multiple types of attacks which happened recently. There was a there was an attack which happened in United States with respect to the water treatment plant what they had, and it was actually hacked and the water was poisoned. Okay, so that again it's a kind of an attack wherein the human lives are being threatened. We are all in danger if these things or these kind of attacks are being carried out in day out. It becomes very difficult and it becomes very challenging to go ahead and stop these attacks or to mitigate these attacks once they happen. So that is why we are having this session to make people aware that before anything happens, we need to have holistic security by design principle in any of the IoT product or IoT device that we are maybe releasing in the market, that we are using for our own. So we need to have security by design principle, and we need to embed security since the inception of the product. That has been the motto of the technology innovation, I would say, in the cybersecurity field. Okay, so to go ahead with, I'll go ahead and talk about the different kind of attack surface and security challenges that we might talk about or we come across in the IoT security area or in the IoT security world. So sorry, before we go ahead and talk about the complete attack surface, let's look at it from the ecosystem perspective, that why really IoT attack surfaces have different kind of things. When I talk about any of the IoT product, I'm taking an example of IoT enabled camera, which is installed in your home. You can see real-time feeds. You can upload your feeds to the cloud. You can also download the feeds to your mobile phone using that app. And you can also go to your computer, type the web address of that web camera, and you can maybe see the live feed from your computer also. And then you can upload it from there as well. So if you see this particular example of web camera, what all things do you look at? If I talk about the ecosystem of the web camera, the ecosystem of web camera actually includes everything. Okay, from the perspective of technology, if I would say, it includes everything. It includes your mobile application. It includes the hardware device, which is the web camera itself. It also includes the cloud infrastructure or the cloud communication, which is happening for the upload of the feeds or upload of the videos which have been recorded. We also have an web application interface wherein we are going to the computer, laptop, and we are typing the web address of that the camera, and then we are gaining the access to our feeds or the live pictures. And we also have the infrastructure set up in our home, maybe with respect to our wireless or with respect to the hotspot where our these cameras are connected. Okay, so this, if we look at it from the ecosystem perspective, we are talking about it holistically. These are all the different dimensions where this IoT product is basically either talking to or taking some data from them. Okay, so that is why we are calling it as a as an attack surface. That what are those touch points or what are those entry points from where the adversary can come in or from where any attack or breach might happen. Okay, so I am presuming that we are all aware of the basic terms and terminologies of security, which are threat, vulnerability, and risk. Okay, so I am talking about, a different kind of threats which might come in from the by leveraging these kind of attack surfaces which I have listed down here. So if I talk about, the first attack surface, which is the mobile application. Now, the mobile application attack surface itself is, one dimension completely, which has to be secured first. Okay, so we talk about the Android or iOS mobile application that has to be, again, holistically tested. That has to be that has to undergo the code review process also. That has to go with the pen testing, vulnerability assessment vulnerability assessment also, and that also has to go through the threat modeling kind of things to understand that how these threats are how these threats can be mitigated or remediated. Okay, so from mobile application perspective, we need to have these kind of controls in place, or we need to have these these kind of mechanisms in place to prevent the attacks. From the hardware device perspective, which is the camera itself, there are different kind of components that we can look at. Maybe the CLI, in case if we have a CLI. Okay, in the camera, if we have a touch screen and we can use the CLI, that's a different that's a different perspective altogether again, wherein we go ahead and test those CLI also. However, if we do not have the CLI, there are other interfaces also, like we have the physical interfaces, a USB, a USB interface, the power interface. If we have HDMI cable interface, that is also there. Apart from that, if we have tamper proofing in the device, that or not, whether somebody can go ahead and simply open it, they can see different kind of debug ports also. So those debug ports also we need to look at whether they are all securely whether they are all secure, or they have been adequately secured or not. Also the FCC ID kind of a thing, or device serial IDs exposure, these kind of things we need to look at from the hardware security perspective. From the cloud security perspective, again, there are number of parameters to look at. Here I have just tried to highlight a few of them, like the usage of insecure APIs, which I have seen in my experience, many people or many organizations have been doing it as a practice. Then the shared infrastructure, if you have your information over cloud and the cloud is being shared with multiple other vendors, that also becomes a security challenge at times. Then inadequate access control, the access control for data, that who all has the access to my data. Transport encryption means, is my data really being transported securely or not? Do I have TLS 1.2, 1.3 in place or not? Two-factor authentication or multi-factor authentication in place or not? Those kind of authentication, authorization, access control mechanism should be there when we are dealing with the cloud, cloud infrastructure or cloud integration. Similarly, for the web application also, we need to test the applications with respect to different standards, which is maybe OWASP, web or API top 10. Then we also need to work on the different kind of security considerations which are coming up with the OWASP web and API top 10. And from the network or infrastructure perspective, we need to look at the the infrastructure configuration or infrastructure level attack surface, whether my password has been configured properly or not, whether my hotspot is broadcasted, do I have a hidden network, what is it that I have configured for the hotspot, or how my camera is being configured. Those all things we need to cater with respect to the network or infrastructure testing. And this is I'm talking about just the common attack surfaces, which if we go and dig deeper into, there might be many number of things that we can come up with. However, on a broader level, these are the overall attack surfaces that we have with respect to IoT security or IoT product. Okay, so I hope I am clear as of now. In case any questions, if you have any kind of queries, you can put it in the chat and I can take that up as soon as I can, or maybe at the end of the session.
Yeah, I think we have a couple of questions, Neeraj, if you wish to take. Yeah. So the first question is from Praveen Kulkarni. He's talking about the protocols for the IT and OT system. So how do you kind of differentiate the protocols, or do you have a list of protocols for IT and OT? Because we talked about ZigBee and other things, right?
Mm-hmm.
So how do you differentiate between protocols of IT and OT systems?
Well, if I try to differentiate the protocol between the IT and OT systems, I would say I am trying to, do something which is not really very engaging. Okay, why I would say that is because the IoT protocols that I'm talking about, they're specifically with respect to the IoT devices. However, OT protocols, if I talk about, Profibus, BACnet, there are different kind of protocols which are again available for the OT specific side as well. Okay, if you talk about a list of protocols over the internet, there are a number of sites which will just give you, the list of IoT or OT protocols. However, if you try to, differentiate it, it might be differentiative in the with respect to architecture, but not really with respect to the usage of it, because many of IoT devices are being utilized in the OT sector as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks. Thanks, Neeraj. So the next question is from Darshan Shantamurthy. Darshan is asking, what are the IoT use cases in the payment industry which has been exploited or been vulnerable? What you have seen
in the payment industry, there are different kind of POS machines, I would say, which are IoT enabled nowadays. We have seen, okay, and there are if I talk about retail stations, okay, there are a number of usage based analytics devices which are available, which we have seen being exploited in the past very recently. Okay, one of the German-based device was being exploited actually for a retail vendor. Okay, that was again an analytics device which was collecting the data of how the sales are, what kind of customers basically from which region is it coming from. Okay, what kind of items they are purchasing, and what are the shopping trends that they have. For example, if they're shopping on a weekday, whether they're shopping on a weekend. So there are different kind of personal level analytics also which was happening for that with the help of that device, and that was breached, and it was a big news. I would say it's some 1.5 years back, not very recently, but 1.5 years back. So that is one of the use cases I can talk about.
Thanks, Neeraj. I think we have some more questions also, but again, let's get the session done, and towards the end, we will take up a few more questions. Yeah, let's move on.
Sure. Yeah. Sorry. Okay. So, with respect to the key security challenges, we have talked about, multiple attack surfaces of IoT devices or products. Now let's talk about, something with respect to the challenges, that what are the different challenges that we have when we are dealing with any of the IoT product or any of the IoT enabled device. Okay, the first thing that we are talking about is overly large attack surface, which we were talking about in the last slide. If you look at the IoT product from the ecosystem perspective, it becomes very large, and you really need a team which is very skilled enough and which has the capability to cater to any of the area that you are actually integrating with respect to the IoT product. For example, you need an expert who is very well versed with the cloud security. You need an expert who is very well versed with the hardware security. You need an expert who is very well versed with the web or API security. There's the first thing to understand is there is nothing called as absolute security. Okay, and it's everyone's responsibility to have security embedded as design. Not really one person can go ahead and implement security overall or holistically. Okay, so if we do not have experts from different areas, if we do not have experts or professionals from different skill set, it becomes very difficult for any enterprise, for any organization to really go ahead and secure the IoT product from different dimensions or from different factors. Okay, so that is why we are saying that overly large attack surface, since we talked about that there are multiple attack surfaces which are available for any of the IoT product. So it becomes difficult to really go ahead and secure that in a less amount of time. Nowadays, we are seeing that agile is the preferred way of handling the product development. So considering that we have short sprints, and it becomes really difficult to manage everything in that go. Second thing becomes the lack of awareness. So this is also one of the major reasons I have seen in many places. So the lack of awareness is that we are not really having, regular catch up with the developers, or maybe we are not having regular, training sessions. We are not having any kind of method through which both the parties, the security professional and the developers, or maybe, the quality engineers, all those people are not really interacting with each other to understand that what are those things that we can really do about it. Okay, threat modeling being one of the, very ignorant kind of a thing for many of the organizations I have seen, that has been just left behind. So that is one of the important factors in the design phase when we are really developing the product. We should go ahead and do the threat modeling to understand what are the different threats which might emerge, going forward once the product is developed, or maybe, when the product is going for the pen test. Before that, we can identify many threats and we can go ahead and implement control for that. That will actually, cover many of the things that we might come up with after pen test. Okay, so that is what lack of awareness would actually help you to achieve. Okay, the insufficient security testing, if we talk about the one that we were talking about now, what I see in many of the organizations that we really go ahead and do only maybe security testing of the web application, or maybe we go ahead and do just the infrastructure testing, or even if that is, I mean, leave that. Many of the organizations are only doing the vulnerability assessment and not the penetration testing. Some of the organizations I have seen, they are doing just the black box, type of a testing for their applications or for their infrastructure, and they're just going ahead with that for the release, maybe by fixing some medium kind of an issues which might occur at the time of vulnerability assessment. And low level issues, I have seen that many of the organizations don't really care about. Okay, so that is one of the areas I have seen being ignored heavily, which which needs clear attention, and which needs really good amount of consideration before going ahead and having the exception in place, or having or really not having anything in place for those kind of bugs, or for those reported items. Okay, apart from insufficient security testing, we also have lack of adequate patch management and update mechanism. There are a lot of attack vectors which actually comes in place depending on what kind of update mechanism you have. So the firmware upgrade for the IoT device, or sorry, how you're pushing the updates for the platform, that also becomes that also becomes of paramount importance. For example, if you're using a USB device for updating the firmware, that's a clear-cut risk. Okay, again, not just a risk, an added attack surface, I would say. Okay, why? Because if you're using a USB device for upgrading the firmware or making the platform updated, you again will have to go ahead and implement the USB security also adequately. Okay, so having said that, if you do not have those mechanisms in place, and you are following the right policy or right kind of recommendation for patch management or for update mechanisms, that should actually that should actually suffice your requirements for having controls in place for any of the security breaches which might occur in future. Also, from the data privacy and security perspective, which we were talking about in the earlier slides, that we are also talking from the perspective of maybe GDPR also, or maybe with respect to HIPAA, because we have different kind of devices. We have health related devices, we have devices wherein we have personal information. So basically the device needs to be tested from all the perspective, maybe from the UI perspective, also from the local data storage perspective also, that we are not disclosing, or we are not really violating the privacy policies or privacy guidelines which have been published by these kind of organizations, or these regulations, which are HIPAA or GDPR. So not just because we are trying to save the customer data or the personal information, but also from the organizational financial perspective also, there are huge fines, or there are heavy penalties which are which are implicable because of the breaches which are happening for these. There are insecure default configurations also, like having the default passwords, or not asking the password to change at the first log on. These are some of the default configurations that many of the devices coming up with even now, which is again becoming a bottleneck for security, or which is again becoming a kind of a headache for the end users, or maybe for the organizations also to take care once the breach has happened. So to cater with all these things, we need to have adequate level of security check or configuration review, or sufficient security testing basically in the first go itself, so that we avoid all these kind of things. Then we are also talking about one of the security challenges which are upcoming and ever-changing regulations. So when I'm talking about upcoming and ever-changing regulations, we talked about one of the security act actually announced by Donald Trump, right? So that is also one of the regulations that we might go ahead and see in future for IoT. Okay, similarly, there are multiple bodies, security bodies, or there are multiple regional bodies which are coming up with the IoT security standards or regulations in place. Maybe area specific, region specific, that is a different story. But they're coming up with something so that they have some level of benchmark for IoT devices or products with respect to security. Then again, lack of skilled professional, which we were talking about in the first factor, which is overly large attack surface, that we need to have a skilled professional for each type of ecosystem component that we are looking at, maybe from the mobile perspective, from the web perspective, cloud perspective, hardware perspective, infrastructure perspective. We need to have skilled professional who actually understands the subject matter, and he can go ahead and advise the developer, or maybe advise the organization that how to go about securing it, or how to go about having the controls in place which might prevent the attacks later on. One of the most important things what I have seen in recent days is open source security. So open source security is again one of the things which is of paramount importance, because this reduces the cost of any product by a large extent. And since it is reducing the cost of the product by large extent, many of the organizations or many of the developers are using it heavily on a large scale. However, they are not really very much aware of open source security, that how to have the due diligence in place when we are dealing with any of the open source libraries, any of the open source components. Many of the organizations I have seen who does not even have the open source security policy, that what to use, how to use, and when to use. Many of the products I have tested wherein I have seen, after doing the reverse engineering, we still have many of the open source libraries or packages which are not really being used, but they are as part of the product, so that if it is outdated, you can simply go ahead and exploit that. That becomes added attack surface, which is really not required. And if taken care in a considerate way, you can actually get rid of it very easily. So open source security, I would say, is one of the paramount importance. This will actually help you, in the supply chain security also. And one thing which I want to, just give a voiceover is the software composition analysis, that you should also, consider as part of the security, as part of the security journey that you have, or maybe the different phases that you're dealing with in product development. Apart from the security challenges, we have some of the key standards and regulations in place. That what are those some standard bodies or regulations which are talking about IoT security? So one of them, being the OWASP top 10, which really goes ahead and defines that what are the different top threats which are being which are basically being driven by many adversaries around across geographies. Okay, those top 10, if I talk about, there are different kind of vulnerabilities, or there are different kind of threats which OWASP has highlighted, like the insecure web interfaces are there, lack of transport protection is there, privacy concerns are there. You also have poor physical security, you have insufficient security configurability, configurability. Then you also have insecure mobile interfaces. There are many of them which we can talk about, and that will take the conversation actually longer, which is really not in the scope of this presentation. We can go ahead and discuss that maybe later on, or you can write your questions to ISACA Bangalore chapter also, and then we can answer that. Apart from OWASP IoT Top 10, we also have European Union baseline for security recommendations, which is again a very recent one, which has drafted the the baseline security recommendations for IoT in the context of critical information infrastructure. Like if you have any of the critical automotive sector or smart grid, or you have any nuclear power plant, those kind of critical infrastructure. So they have basically outlined the baseline for those IoT devices placed in these kind of environment. Then one of the things we already talked about is IoT Cybersecurity Improvement Act of 2020, which is from the United States. Again, the California IoT security law also talks heavily on the different attack vectors and also different kind of dimensions from the IoT ecosystem, which we should go ahead and adequately have security controls in it before we release it to the market. Similarly, we also have IoT Security Compliance Framework, which is from the IoT Security Foundation again, and talks about different pillars of IoT security or IoT ecosystem. You can go ahead and look at all these kind of regulations and standards which are placed here, but I'll just give you a brief of it, that what it is and how is it actually catering the organization. Apart from this, we also have IEC 62443 4.1 and 4.2 talking about the product manufacturers talking about from the product manufacturers perspective. Okay, so it tells you that how you should go ahead and develop the product, how you should embed security by design, and what are those security considerations which you should have while you are actually dealing with any of the IoT products or connected products. Okay, then the Internet of Things Foundation also has a lot of materials and a lot of guidelines on how to secure the IoT products, or how to secure the connected technology products. Apart from that, NIST also has guidance on the Internet of Things device cybersecurity, which is again in the draft phase as of now. However, it is going to be released soon. This will also heavily talk about the improvements of the cybersecurity in IoT devices or the ecosystem of IoT devices. Okay, the North American Electric Liability Corporation heavily talks about how you should have the IoT devices or IoT security embedded in the electrical sector, or maybe in the smart grids, smart meters, how they should be actually taken care in these critical infrastructure kind of environment. So these are some of the key standards and regulations which I wanted to give you a glimpse of. And we'll go ahead and towards the end we are talking about the leading practices, which are again some of the practices that we should follow going ahead if we are dealing with any of the IoT devices or developing it, like classification of data, how we are classifying the data, what type of data is it? Is it a sensitive data? Is it a personally identifiable data? Whether it is actually data which might identify somebody, which might identify somebody and can cause harm also. Okay, so those kind of classifications we should go ahead and do while we are designing the product, or while we are talking about the product, that what kind of data might go in. Okay, from the physical security point of view also, we need to have the tamper protection or tamper proofing for any of the IoT products or devices. Okay, there are multiple technologies again available for that. And device secure boot is one of the things which we should go ahead and secure, because it is of paramount importance. We might need to have the operating system also adequately configured, or the platform basically adequately hardened, so that we do not have any kind of attack surfaces left there for the breaches. The application security, again, we talked about that. There is also one of the dimensions we should look at, that how to secure the application which is running over that IoT product. The credential management, if we are dealing with any of the credentials, how we are managing it. Are we using any kind of HSM modules, or are we having any kind of other technologies in place to manage the credential. From the encryption perspective, that what are those encryption techniques or mechanisms we are using, which are implemented as part of the IoT enabled devices. The network connection, again, what kind of communication are we using, the TLS 1.2, TLS 1.3? What is this communication mechanism that we have in place? From the securing software updates, again, the air gapping needs to be, adequately handled here when we are talking about securing the software updates. The logging and monitoring, again, it comes from the part of pure IT security. However, it is very well part of the IoT security as well. The logging and monitoring, wherein we have the list of events, incidents, and breaches in place, and then we go ahead and triage accordingly. Then again, we need to have a software update policy, wherein we talk about the patch management and how the patches should be released, what should be the frequency, how the update should be done. All these things should be a part of the software update policy. Before we end, I just wanted to give you a glimpse of how the different types of toolkit look like when we are talking about the IoT product security, or IoT or connected device security. Basically, these are some of the hardware that we usually have when we are testing it, and some of the common software or I would say tools which we utilize when we are testing the IoT product. Okay, so that would be all from my side, and any questions, I'm happy to answer that.
Yeah, so I think we have got a bunch of questions, Neeraj. I think Thank you for the session, but yeah, so let me just begin with okay, I think whatever you're showing right on the screen. So there is a related question. So people are asking, Uday Krishna is asking, what kind of OS is being used in a IoT server or a control device? Please list some of the devices being used in the IoT server other than Raspberry Pi. Any other common thing you want to talk about?
Server, I mean, if I understand the question correctly, if you're talking about in the platforms, it could be any platform for that matter for the IoT device. It can be, a real-time operating system also. Okay, it can be a Windows operating system also. Many of the healthcare manufacturer devices I have seen, which is running over Windows. Many of them are running over Linux. So it depends on what kind of platform you use actually. Okay, so that is not really, something which is very specific, but whichever is convenient for the organization or whatever is, suitable for them, be it Windows, real-time operating system, Linux, or anything for that matter.
Okay. So let's make it quick. I have a lot of questions, but again, so let's make a kind of a rapid fire.
Sure.
So the next question is from Kiran. Kiran is asking, any special consideration to keep in mind other than the regular ones for managing the identities of IoT devices, IoT identities?
Identity of IoT devices, if I understand the question correctly, we need to have, the configuration in place so that, and the segmentation, network segmentation basically also in place, so that your device does not go ahead and, be visible over the internet. So somebody who is trying to attack from the external perspective, they would not really have the, good hands over it if you have done the network segmentation, or if you're using the environment properly.
So the next question is from an anonymous person, but again, this is a question I also want to ask. So this is more on the problems in the vulnerability management, right? So in the existing environment, even without IoT, with popular vendors like Microsoft or Cisco or Juniper, whoever it is, right? The popular network vendors and the operating system vendors, even though they publish patches, a lot of organizations struggle to get the patch up to date kind of a thing, right? So what about these kind of IoT devices? I buy an IoT device and tomorrow, if the manufacturer suddenly stops supporting it, or if there is a vulnerability, I didn't know whether the patch is available or not. So how do you enhance the vulnerability management process for the IoT devices? Any kind of tips or any kind of pointers in that?
See, this is a very generic scenario which might happen in any of the cases, not just the IoT devices, but in any of the cases, be the core IT security also, right? So if I talk specifically from the product perspective, the IoT product perspective, the first thing that we need to have is a proper patch management policy, and the software composition analysis, the open source security. These three things I was talking about, these are of paramount importance when you're dealing with any of the patch management or update release policies. These three things you need to have: open source security policy, the software composition analysis, and the patch management policy with updates as well, that how you are updating it, from which all vendors you are actually utilizing it or leveraging it, how you are basically releasing it to the end customer. These all things should be as part of your policy, very clearly outlined. Only then you will be, able to cater to these things.
Yeah, okay. See, I think, yeah, that is very kind of an important to understand, right? So maybe just a kind of a question. So say, for example, whatever use like Alexa or Google Home, right? Even that can be called as an IoT device, right? If I'm
Yes,
not
definitely.
Okay, yeah. So I think, yeah, if there is a vulnerability or a patch available, it should be also done for that. Okay. So the next question is from Vaidi Iyer. So he's asking the question on the IoT security laws and the critical information infrastructure. So in the real world, we have something called as a critical information infrastructure, like, for example, banking or power grid kind of thing. So how is this IoT security laws and this critical information infrastructure link? Can you provide some kind of a pointers on the linkage between two of these?
Yeah. So see, nowadays there's a very common term which is in the market called as IT/OT convergence. Okay, so that IT/OT convergence basically is talking about any of the IoT devices that you have. Okay, you're placing it in the OT environment or maybe in the critical infrastructure environment. Okay, which is becoming a medium from the IT world to the OT world. OT world usually is a very secluded place. Nowadays, now basically, we are moving from that approach or methodology to something very advanced. However, if we talk about in general, that is a very secluded world, and the IoT device is becoming a medium for that. So if we are not keeping that particular medium secure, we are anyways going to be prey of any of the breaches or any of the vulnerabilities which might come into place. Okay, and those are all very critical devices or critical kind of infrastructure wherein we cannot actually nobody is actually going to have any kind of accountability also if something happens.
Yeah, so I think the US has recently, as you said, right? So similarly, other countries also will slowly catch up, and the regulators will start pushing security standards, kind of a thing. Yeah, I think it's a valid point, Neeraj. So Neeraj, another couple of questions like we'll take up before we wrap up. So there's a common question between Sudarshan Chakrabarti and Darshan Shantamurthy. So the question is, do we have any auditing standards for IoT devices, auditing or any certifiable standards?
Certifiable standards, I would, for IoT, actually, UL basically certifies your product. Okay. So when I say UL certifies your product, it actually goes ahead and does the testing from its side also, be it the pen test or different hardening kind of testing. But UL actually certifies your product. Okay, so any product that, for that matter, if you take a good product from a good company, it will be UL certified. Okay, so UL is Underwriter Laboratories, by the way. Okay, so that is again another certifying body which certifies your products. Okay, specifically from the audit perspective, I am not coming across anything which can certify you in the IoT security space.
Still, it is evolving, right? So the dimensions are evolving. So again, the next question is from Anil. I think I would take this as the last question because a bunch of stuff coming up. So we are seeing this IoT and connected tech mostly in the automotive industry, right? Especially cars, bikes being launched. Yeah. So how secure it when we are trying to use it? Like, so what are the things as a customer or as an organization they should consider if you are offering a product or consuming a service like this, right? On connected tech on the automotive industry, whether it might be a bike or a car.
It's a very tricky question, first of all. The good thing about technology is it's ever evolving. So anything that you take, for that matter, it is going to change very quickly with the time. Okay. However, if I talk about recently, Ola scooter got launched, or there are a number of cars also which are coming up with internet-enabled technologies, or across borders there are multiple cars which are already having the connected technology feature in it. Okay, now if you are releasing those products in the market, you need to have holistically tested products which are released in the market. You should have a policy which is talking about holistic security or security by design. And once you're releasing it in the market, you should assure the customer that yes, this product has been tested adequately, and you show them some kind of assurance. Maybe one kind of assurance is in the IT security, you have ISO 27001. In the quality management, you have ISO 9001, right? So people will actually write that, yes, our company is 9001 certified, or maybe our company is ISO 27001 certified. So you need to have those kind of assurance also, and make people aware that we are doing rigorous testing. We are doing, a rigorous amount of work in securing the technology that we are delivering to the customer. So that is one of the critical things I would say, which needs to be adapted by the industry.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Neeraj. Kind of a quick round to all the participants. Please participate in the feedback survey. Just you can go to menti.com and type the numbers, or you can just scan the QR code so that you can automatically go ahead and answer the survey. So this will help us to, for the future SLB and the CPE sessions, to plan effectively, and the topics, whatever you want to get in, please provide your active feedback to it. So yeah, Neeraj, I think those are the bunch of questions. I think a lot of key takeaways in terms of how do you manage IoT security, what are the things to consider, right? And what are the standards, what are the protocols, and the various references. I think we almost covered the entire gamut of it. Thank you so much for your time today. And that brings us to the end of our first part of this SLB session. Thanks, Neeraj.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Ganeshan, and to the all the participants as well for joining in to the ISACA Bangalore chapter as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
It was a pleasure meeting you all.
Yeah.